All right, I'm a loud mouth, so I'm going to set the mic down. Okay, if I break the speakers, it's Clinton's fault. All right, well, thanks everyone for coming out. I know we've had a lot of fun so far, so I'll try and make up a little bit of our time. I hope you find this informative. As with any meeting, we have to start with ground rules. So, first ground rule. This session is for you, so you need to participate. I already know this stuff, so I could have done this at home other than meeting all you people. So please, this is for you. Ask questions, get involved. You will be forced to, so enjoy. Disclaimer. These are tricks and tips that really work well for me. But they may not work for everybody. They may not fit for you. So please, consult your professional coach, consult a doctor before taking on any new program. And the second disclaimer is the views presented here are the exclusive and sole responsibility of me, so please do not try and hold anyone else or any company I may or may not work for responsible for the thoughts or actions in this presentation. Also, absolutely no animals or creation in this presentation, but please do contribute to your local wrestling. Alright. Really, don't you hate it when you go through a whole presentation and then all of a sudden you see the conclusions and it makes sense? So we're going to start with the conclusions and then we'll work through it and see if you believe them. The first one is, marketing is an exploitation of your uniqueness. And we're going to need to find out what marketing is, or how are you going to market yourself for a new career. The second conclusion, self-marketing has to become part of every moment in your day. And you'll see why as we go through. The last, you need to remain focused on your value and help that value connect personally with other people. Good so far? Okay. So, let's jump in a little bit. How many people here? Yes, sir.
First question.
Yes.
Will the slides be available after?
What a great question. If you notice at the bottom of this, if you go to hansekman.com right now and click on presentations, you can download and view this presentation as we go along. Also, it'll be available through our chapter website, and the video of this will be posted on my YouTube channel and available on that same site sometime before the end of the year, but not in the next 2 weeks. Just setting expectations reasonably. So how many people here are actively seeking a job? How many people are seeking a better job or would love to get a better job than they have right now if it was offered to them? Is there anybody here who is so completely satisfied that there is no possible job I could offer you that would really make you consider? Okay. How many people interviewed or were part of an interview in the last week? Everybody who has their hands down, I'm going to prove you wrong in a second. How many people in this room have a personal brand? Okay, we're going to come back to this. Has everybody who did not raise their hand that they interviewed in the last week, have you talked with anybody in the last week? You have interviewed. Does anybody have no personality? If you have no personality, no value, grab a pickle, it's all the food that's left, okay? Because everything you do, who you are, your values, everything you do is your brand, whether you realize it or not. So then the question is, what are you going to do with your brand? What do you want it to be? So, let's take a look at what is marketing. Let's understand that first. Why do we buy anything? And this is audience participation time. There is really only one reason we ever make a purchase. What is that? Emotion? Not quite. Okay. If you have a need, like I need more cupcakes. Want, okay. But if I want something, if I want a Mercedes, am I going to go out and buy it right now?
Value.
Not on my budget. Yes?
It's valuable to you.
Value. It's actually perceived value is why you make a purchase. Is what you're giving up less valuable than what you're getting? We make these decisions every time. You walk to a food court and you're deciding where to go. Where am I going to spend my dollar? Is that dollar better giving it to Panda Express than it is sitting in my pocket and going to bus fare later? That's a value decision that you make every time. When people are hiring you or engaging you on projects, they are making a value decision. Is the cost of your time, is the cost of your engagement worth the value that they're going to get out of you? And the answer for everyone here should be yes. So, what is marketing? In the simplest terms, marketing is the exploitation of your uniqueness. So, the first part of it is, what's unique about you? What is special? Think about, we're just coming out of the summer, and we've got the wars between the different companies that sell grass seed. Does anybody ever see a commercial that says, "Hi, I'm Bob's Grass Seed. We have grass seed"? That's what it is. You need grass. Grass seed makes grass, so why not just buy a bag of generic grass seed? No, what they're doing is they're trying to say why their grass seed is unique. Does it hold water? Does it have higher germination? Does it grow in shade? Does it come in a prettier bag? I don't know. But that uniqueness is only a value if you really exploit it. You've got to use that as a differentiator. Right now, we've got a whole room full of new BAs, people that want to become BAs, to some of the most senior BAs. What is each person's uniqueness? Because every person here could fit a different job, a different role. There's a different value proposition. If I need somebody who is, if I need somebody to document some basic, to organize and re-engineer some basic flow charts, I'm not going to hire Russ. I'm not going to, because that's a waste of his talent. In the same vein, if I need a business architect, somebody who's going to really translate things, who am I going to look to? I'm going to look to some of the experts in this room, some of the people that have been mentioned that are helping out there. So, what makes successful marketing? It's got to be unique. You've got to present more value than whatever other options are there. And if you can't see, feel free to side back. Sorry about that. That message, that uniqueness, that value proposition has to connect with the person that's receiving it. If they don't understand it, if they don't draw anything from it, then it's kind of like all the billboards we drive by and never pay any attention to. The last is, and this is the one that 98% of people, even in sales, miss. There has to be a call to action. Standing out there and proving that you are the greatest BA in the world, you are the greatest conference in the world, doesn't do any good if there's no call to action. Hire me. Put me on your project. Let me lead your team. Come to Atlanta in the spring and you will be blown away by the quality of the presentations. So, why is good marketing important? Anybody want to buy this off an infomercial? So the message you have has to reinforce the positive value. And I say positive because negative values don't sell very well. So, but what about a value proposition? Is any message a good value proposition? Hey, look here, we're having 0% off today. Where's the value? That's kind of a epic fail. And the last one is, it's not even the value. It's the perception of the value. Somewhere in a boardroom, when this wasn't attached to an escalator, this was a phenomenal ad. Somebody didn't think this one through.
Is that a Hartsville?
No, fortunately not. So, let's take a look at this. So, the core to figuring out what your value proposition is, what your uniqueness is you really have to know thyself. So, what are you? Are you just your college degree or post-college degree? Are you just the sum of your job history? Are you just a collection of skills? Think about that right now, and you don't have to raise your hand for this one. Think about the resume that if I said at the end of this meeting that I have a BA job opening or another position opening, how many resumes am I going to get in this room that just have a degree, a list of jobs, and a list of skills? We're going to go into that a little bit more as well. So, what makes you unique? There's two real approaches here. If you are communicating skills, you are a commodity. Which means, if you tell me you can facilitate meetings, you can gather requirements, you can document them, you can do flow charts, you are telling me the actions you can do, and that's it. There's no value to that. That is just, I can hire the cheapest person who can perform that at the minimal acceptable level. That's my value proposition. What's the cheapest I can buy that skill? Can I offshore it? Probably. What if I do that with value? What if I am very good at finding the flaws in your process flow, simplifying your processes, translating your waterfall environment into an agile environment? Now I'm a linchpin. And this book is referenced at the end, Linchpin by Seth Godin. It is the linchpin, for those that don't know, it is the pin that holds parts together and makes the whole thing work. This is the person that everyone, when they're talking around the coffee, says, if Bob left the company, we are toast. You want to be Bob. You want to be that linchpin. So let's look at LinkedIn, social networking. Thanks to Keith for really bringing our chapter at the forefront of that. Let's look at LinkedIn, and I imagine how many people, well, let me just do it the other way. Who is not on LinkedIn? Excellent. Who is the bare minimum on LinkedIn? Okay, we need to work with y'all. Talk with Keith, go to one of his seminars, go online. It is critical.
Hire me.
Hire side consulting. So, tagline at the top, everybody's got their little description. A dynamic leader with the ability to drive change and a proven track record of high accomplishments in various areas. Who wants to hire this person? But there's value. They're driving change, they've got a proven track record, and they can do it in various areas. Wow, did they miss the mark? That's like saying, hey, hire me at Tire World. 15 years of experience leading teams of 10 to 200 staff members, managing 30 plus projects, ranging from 100,000 to 1.7 million. Better. You're quantifying what you do. You're adding a little bit of talk about what it is you do. But then again, okay, where is that? 30 projects over 15 years, 2 projects per year? Is that good or bad?
So what?
Yeah, it's just, there's nothing there. It's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, where's the accomplishment?
Developed and implemented change and problem management processes that led to a 25% incident reduction within 18 months.
Bingo.
More interested? Are you going to want to know more? Okay. So, once you start determining why you're unique, why you're special, what it is you have to offer, that's when you can start to tell your story. Nobody likes to hear recited facts. People want to hear stories. Short, easy stories. They used to say, you know, you've got 30 seconds in an elevator pitch. Try 7 seconds. If you cannot explain to me what you do, why you do it, where you're special in 7 seconds, chances are I'm going to tune out. And that's not just because I have OCD and a short attention span. That is what our attention span is shrunk to. 7 plus or minus 2 seconds. And you'll see there's citations throughout this if you think I was making it up. Okay, so where's our story heard? Why is this important? Well, the easy one is every day at your current employer, or every time you're going to interview. Obviously your story's being heard. Every professional interaction, everybody you have sat next to, met, will meet immediately after this. You will grab their business card, you will quickly, on your drive home, not wrecking, type them into LinkedIn and connect. It's through every personal interaction. Social interactions as well. It's through LinkedIn and your resume, which is usually all we think about when we talk about formal marketing for ourselves. It's the intentional networking we do. like in these meetings, like when you were going out to different groups, when you were meeting other professionals. It's a personal, professional site. How many people out here have some sort of a site that represents themselves beyond LinkedIn? Got a few, okay, that's good. Now, it may not be for everybody, but that is a very successful way of sharing information. I've found it extremely successful over the years. Having a blog, having something to say, having to share it. WordPress is free. It's very easy to get started. It's very easy to learn. So that's an opportunity. And then social networking. And social networking is probably the sharpest double-edged sword that you will find when it comes to your marketing. Go to Facebook. Go to your privacy settings and find that really hidden link that says, see me, show me my profile as if I wasn't connected. Yes?
And Hans, let me also add here, speaking of blogging and going back to LinkedIn, starting in February of this year, it's now a new feature called publishing. And if you've been following some of the thought leaders in politics and industry as an influencer, they write those posts that you can get in your feed. Well, now you too can write your own blog on your profile. It's through the publishing app, which I believe now is available to everyone, whether you're free or premium, and you can start reaching out to your network. But don't spam people with thoughtful blog posts through your LinkedIn profile to your network. So that's something else you can do.
Fantastic. That's great. Now, cool. I learned something new too. This is awesome. Yes, if I'm not sure of a candidate, I will do a Facebook search. That's how I found out that somebody that I was about to hire was selling themselves as a professional author and speaker. So I knew clearly this was just a holdover job until that took off. And they couldn't figure out how I found it. Well, I did a web search. I found out that they said they had a book. I couldn't find it on Amazon, found the site, found their speaker site, and all of a sudden I knew everything about them that they didn't want people to know. But it's out there. So what you need to do is to start building a success pyramid, a foundation for your stories, for your messaging, for your marketing. And I will tell you, this is the hardest thing you will probably do in your career. I've been working with a professional coach and a branding and marketing genius for 20 years, and I finally came up with a tagline I was happy with and a marketing message that worked. And it changes. It has to change as you change. So, what we said is, the outcome of any interaction should be an action. You want someone to take an action, whether that's simply think of me favorably in case something opens up, or offer me a large contract. In order for that action to happen, you have got to connect, which means you have got to tie your marketing message into the people that need to receive that. This is not the shotgun approach where you try and hit a message that's so broad that it hits everybody and everything. You want to target only those people who resonate with you. You want your message to offend people you don't want to work with. And I know that sounds counter, but do you really want to work with somebody that's that different that they're going to get offended by you? No, you're not going to be happy. In order to have that marketing message, you've got to be able to demonstrate that that's what you have, that's who you are. That comes from stories and examples. And then to have all of that, before we can even come up with the first story, we got to have a big heap of facts. All those things that we think about now, all those things you've done, all the successes you've had. So what would this marketing potentially look like? Well, first, your marketing package has to be consistent. You need to have, it needs to be appropriate for whoever your audience is. And again, and I'm going to keep saying this, it's got to provide value to your prospect. Some things that you may consider including. And think about this as you think about your personal marketing. What do you have? Business cards. You can get them for free online. You can get them for $9.99 in Vistaprint. There's tons of opportunities. You should have business cards. Mine are at the end. Feel free to grab them and connect with me on LinkedIn at the end. You should have some sort of an overview, and the ones with asterisks we're going to look at in more detail. A resume, because everyone requires it and I hate it. Case studies. Testimonials. Get comments. It's easy to collect them on LinkedIn. Collect them for feedback reviews, surveys, wherever else you can. A website or a blog. Your LinkedIn profile. and then a big file of supporting materials that helps you create all those other things, and nobody will ever see but you, and possibly somebody that lives with you that wants you to move into a different part of the house. So let's take a look at goal and positioning statements. So a lot of people, again, start off their resume with a goal or positioning statements. To obtain a position that will allow me to fully utilize my communication, organization, and problem-solving skills. Does this work for us?
No.
Why doesn't it work? We've said what the values are, the things I can do for you. Too general. Bingo. It's all about you, the candidate. I don't care about you. I'm hiring you to provide value to me. I'm selfish. It's my money, or it's my company's money. It is very hard for us to flip that around and start looking and say, I'm not in control. I'm not the one who needs to make the decision here. So let's take a look at another one. To work with a reputable company that emphasizes high-level productivity, creativity, strong work ethic, it goes on and on. You can read. Any better? What's wrong with this one? Too long, not focused, and it's all about me again. But this time the all about me is, tell me why you're good enough for me. I'm looking for a company that's going to provide me with these things. Not one single thing here tells me what you're going to do for me, the hiring person. Experienced project manager with over 6 years of project consulting, design, development experience resulting from increased organizational performance. See that a lot on resumes, or something similar. Better? Great? It's better. We're getting there. A digital technologist focused on helping marketers strengthen their client relationships through the implementations of enterprise content management, e-commerce, and web analytics. What do we think about that one? Very focused. There's not a lot of jobs for this person. Should there be? If this is what this person is exceptionally good at, then they are moving themselves out of a commodity market. They are moving themselves into a linchpin market. That can be the difference, a swing of $25 to $50 an hour for highly desired resources. Because commodity resources are the cheapest ones anyone's going to hire. Russ?
Hans, I have Microsoft Office experience.
And there is no lie and no offense to the company that asked me. A while back when I was job searching, found a job through a recruiter. And the recruiter wanted me to rewrite my resume to specify every Microsoft Office product I knew individually listed it. I politely said, please remove me from consideration. If that is what they are screening for, then I am overqualified for the position. And I'm sorry. And I had to move away from it. But yeah, think about it. Think about it. Do you have Office on your resume? What are you saying? I know the basics. I can walk and chew gum. Now, these are real examples that I've collected randomly or through files I've kept over the last 15 years or so. Somebody wrote, so when we're talking about resume experience, because resumes seem to be the way that you've got to communicate. Has anyone seen this? Has anyone been guilty of this sometime in their past? The run-on sentence of everything I did, everything I know in one job? Now, just even flash look at, did anybody have any desire to read this? If I have a huge stack of resumes, do you think I'm going to even look at this one? It's going to get recycled. So, a little bit better. Client and what your position was, or the company you worked for. Project manager for a project. I've got 3 bullets stating, 1, giving me a context. How big it was, how long it was, the size, so that helps me match up the skills, what it encompassed, and generally here we're getting into some skills, so I'm falling into that commodity. And then the second item, they were project manager for 4 simultaneous projects, so I'm getting a flavor for who that person is, not quite the value of why I would want them there.
Much easier to read.
Yes, yeah, bullets, absolutely. And I will give away a secret. If you ever apply for a job with me, I have a screening questionnaire, and or I'll do it in an interview question. Is your resume reflective of the quality of work you're going to put into a requirements package? If you can't put the effort into a 2-page resume that you're going to review and update throughout your life, why am I going to let you write a requirements document? So, because we're stuck on resumes and everyone requires them, here's a few tips. The primary goal, the number one thing your resume should be doing, is demonstrating a value to past and future companies. What was the value you provided to the person that hired you? I will then infer that you could do the same thing or a similar thing for me. When that fails, then you want to demonstrate a critical job skill that's needed or a domain knowledge. Medical is the worst, banking is second, demanding that you have experience in those industries before they will hire you. You got to find a way of covering that. Even if it's talking about all the different bank accounts you have, all the different doctors you visited, you've got to put it in their terms. And I'm not kidding, Russ will vouch for it, that's how I got my job. They weren't going to consider me, and they're like, well, you don't have any banking experience. I said, well, you know, I rewrote the banking curriculum for second-level support managers at Nations Bank way back in the day, but it was no big deal. I don't even have it on my resume. And they're like, okay, my phone rang the next day, and I started the next Monday. It was ridiculous. Please, please. If you spend time on social sites, there's the grammar police and all their horrible postings. You correct spelling, grammar, verb tense, and tone. Occasional mistakes, they're going to slip in. Every time I look back at something, I find another mistake. But if you are switching tense, if you are using improper English, as a BA, that's not possible. As a PM, that's not possible. As a developer, okay. I'm not hiring you for your English skills, I'm hiring you for your coding skills. Make sure you do it right.
And Hans, let me
Yes.
just add, the key here on that, because I'm one of those grammar police, I listen and read with the red pen, thanks to my English professor in college. I'm sorry, guilty as charged. When you're doing something in Word, the red squiggly line is the clue, y'all, or the green one. Something's not right. Something's not right.
And actually, Word's gotten decent. I used to hate the grammar check. It's not that bad now. I don't care who you are, how great you are. Your resume needs to be 2 pages. I barely make it past the first half of a page, to be honest with you. I might go a little past that. You can have addendums, an appendix, supplementals, with all that other stuff that you feel I need to know before I can talk to you, but I need to get the core message in 2 pages or less.
Do you care about this thing? Because some people tell me about your schools and then a section for skills. Is that important?
If you want to get the lowest possible paying job as a commodity resource, lead with your skills. And lead with your degree. If you want to get a good job where you're valued and you're providing value, lead with your value propositions. Lead with what you did, who you were doing it for. Russ.
So I review hundreds of resumes a year. And I review usually the first page, maybe the first half of the second page, and then I'm done. I do not go past that. It's just not relevant.
So you don't need educational skills.
I mean, you should probably have education. If education is a requirement, it should be like the last thing, just a footnote.
If you've got, I mean, it depends, to a certain degree, I'm asking more than I'm stating. If you are a novice in your career, then those are relevant things because they're the most recent things you're
Right.
Yeah.
If you have 5 or more years of experience, your education is beginning to fade as your experience builds as relevant, unless it is something exceptional. In this room, I doubt anybody has a degree in business analysis. I don't know of any programs that are offering a BA in it or an MS.
And that's a great point.
So if you have relevant things like you have a computer science basic, or you are a domain expert in a thing you're applying to be a BA in, those are good routes into being a BA. But otherwise, if you've got 5 or 8 years in the BA field, the rest of it's not so good.
Yeah.
I've got a related question to that. If you're just beginning in an area where you don't have a depth in a particular area, how do you get to the primary goal?
Got it. At the very end of this, there's a slide with 4 must-read books for everyone here. What color is your parachute? It tells you how to translate what you did, regardless of your job title, into the skills and values that are appreciated in another field. So, if you've been a PM all your life and you want to grow up and be a BA, you aren't going to talk about your scheduling ability, your financial management. You're going to talk about your organizational skills, your planning skills, your team management skills, your ability to facilitate and manage meetings. Look for what it is that person would be delivering of value and draw those out of your career. This SunTrust was the first time I ever had a BA title in my career. And once I discovered that there was such things as a BA, I was like, holy cow, there's other freaks like me? This is awesome.
He fooled us. He fooled us.
Yes. Again, and you keep hearing this, everything you communicate must sell for the single position you're applying for. Yes?
So do you have to tailor your resume for the job that you try to apply for?
Yes, I would say so, or at least the first page, because we're finding out that's all that anyone's reading. But I've got a better solution because I think resumes stink. I really hate them. Yes?
So when I'm interviewing, I find great value because I see more of a value proposition if they have a cover letter associated to their resume.
We're going to hit that too.
Okay.
Communicate in headlines, not lengthy articles. Look at a newspaper, look at a magazine, look at the front of a magazine. That's what catches your interest. That's how you need to talk in sound bites and catch people's interest. Developed a B2B ordering and warehouse management system that resulted in an 800% increase in productivity. Designed a new product platform which decreased client development time by 80%, client cost by 40%, but increased profitability by 135%.
Wow.
Anybody want to hire that person? I'm available after the meeting. Those are my value propositions. It was hard to come up with the stories. Because how many people are working with projects and you're not measuring value? You're not tracking success. You don't have any key KPIs, key performance indices. Start capturing them. I'll show you how to.
So, if you already have those experiences and you did not track them, would you estimate or would you just track them?
Do your best estimate and be able to defend it. So, 800%. How do I know I saved 800%? Because prior to us implementing the system for the client that they were landing, they estimated that they were going to have to add 8 full-time employees to process the orders. They did not have to hire anybody. They were able to do it with their existing staff. So one person was able to complete all warehouse orders instead of hiring 8 additional ones. So that, rather than saying, I saved 8 head count, 800% sounds a lot cooler. So all a resume is just a chronological list of your experience. Does that matter? Is your last job always the best one you ever had? The most valuable one? The one that you were excited? I don't think so. Cover letters. Really, why do we have a cover letter? It's because somebody's writing a description of everything that they didn't want to put in their resume. So what they do is, instead of customizing the resume, I put a cover letter in and say, hey, that'll work. I don't read the cover letters. I might skim them a little bit and look at the bullets, but if you're telling me you're perfect for the position, then it should be pretty obvious that I want to talk to you. So, what I recommend instead is an overview. An overview is a one-page marketing slip. If you go in to look at an apartment or a hotel, there's a one-pager that tells you why you want to buy there or stay there. Start looking at those. These flyers that you've got on your desk, that's it. You need one of those. This is so easy to customize for any job. And then yes, you can tag on the resume because they're going to demand you have a resume. It's easy to adapt to an opportunity and it's much more memorable. You've got a headline or a value proposition. You can, in my case, I use 3 value statements tied to the type of position I want. 3 bullets demonstrating how I've just given value in those areas. And underneath it, you're not going to believe me. I quote other people. I use quotes and references and testimonials that I've gathered from people so that you can see in someone else's words why I think I'd kick tail. It It should be visually appealing. It needs to tell a story that solves an audience's core need. And the audience, you shouldn't try and teach, you don't want somebody to understand your whole life when you took your first steps. It's boring. Instead, you want to get them so excited. When you watch a movie trailer, do they tell you what the surprise ending? Oh, by the way, Bruce Willis is dead. Are you going to go see it? No. So what's really important there is you want to catch their attention so that they want to talk to you. You're trying to get in front of them. That's the goal. If you want to see examples of these, there's a link in the presentation and you'll be able to see. I have one if I'm going to apply for a PMO, one if I'm consulting, one for a business architect, one that's just a general overview when I really don't know who you are and what you're looking for. And all they are is different assemblies of the same materials. I have a library of these little facts and these value statements that I can assemble on the fly. Also, you really should invest in creating case studies for yourself. And a case study is really easy. You can do it in PowerPoint. What you should do is use a storyboard, one story per slide. Use a problem-solution format or a context outcome. We had this problem, here's how we solved it, or here was what we were facing, and here's what the positive outcome I delivered was. Use headlines, use feedback and testimonials from other people, be consistent, and the design really does matter. I never believed that, but through my career, I look at Target and their appliances and their spatulas, and you will see how much design has influenced every part of our life. So I've created these, and these are my bigger stories. I can then condense this into a snapshot that I can then use on an overview. I can then use on a resume line. Yes?
Sometimes that's really interesting, because there you're talking about what you've done, but we work in project teams, and we're working with a bunch of other people. So when you're sitting around, you're answering the questions, they're saying, well, was that you? Well, that was my project team. How do you differentiate yourself from the project?
What value did you contribute to the team's success? Nobody expects that this is going to be a one-person show, and actually nobody wants to hire a one-person warrior, very rarely. So what they want to know is, what were you involved with? What did you do? And then, yeah, the conversation, this is a conversation starter. This is to get excitement. Well, what did you do? Well, actually, I researched all of their purchasing needs. I researched how the warehouse was and created something that tied in any ordering system into QuickBooks and then tied it into their warehouse processes. So then you would articulate what portion you did, and that's when you can use we, or how you contributed, or you led the team, or you helped with usability, you did acceptance testing. That's when you start talking about what the role is. So you don't want to lie and take credit for everything. I built the Empire State Building out of Legos.
Can you build a case study if you don't have a lot of experience? Like for me, I'm still getting my master's degree. So how could you, like a person like me, build a case study?
You have a class, probably a project management class you were forced to take, where you went out to a business and helped them solve a problem. You have a case study. You participated in a group project. You have a case study. Those are not going to be overwhelming case studies in the grand scheme of things, but let's imagine that this entire room, everybody here is just about to graduate. They all have their degrees, their classes they took, and then whatever part-time job they had to pay the bills. And you've got some case studies showing what you drew from your classes, your jobs, or where you helped. You're ahead of everybody else in the room. You don't have to beat Ryland. You have to beat anybody else that's applying for the same job. And that's where you've got to focus in on what that is. The earlier you start a skills inventory matrix, we love traceability matrices. Why don't we do one for our own career? Every single client, every single project, anything you worked on, however you want to do it, along with any type of grouping of skills. If you want, start with the BABOK. The organization of the BABOK lists out every skill for a BA grouped by practice, and you can start modeling it. Put check marks, put years of experience, whatever you want. And believe me, when you try and fill out the application for the CBAP, and it takes you, I think I'm on year 5 now, I'll get it eventually. This will tell you what you did and help you map that experience. This then tells you, okay, I'm about to go work for a warehouse company. I've never done anything like it. Well, what else manages inventory? Let me look through it. It's a way, you can do it by industry. I have one that I used to use by industry and one that I use by project and skill set. This just, and nobody will ever see this. I'm not going to hand you a 42 by 42 printout of everything I've done, but I need this to help me map and map my goals. Okay, let's talk about the top mistakes we can make. And I'll try and go quick here. First, do nothing. That's the easiest. Do nothing, you will get nothing, no effort required. Assume your audience has your viewpoint or your awareness. You can't unlearn what you know. You can't unthink about yourself objectively. You've got to try and step aside and say, what do I look like to someone else? How are they going to know who I really am? Don't misrepresent yourself. It will come out, it will haunt you, and it can get you blacklisted. Markets are small, so be careful there. Don't try and be everything to everybody. Don't insert your social life into your professional image unless your professional image is your social life and you're a Kardashian. You've got to separate, and this is hard for people. How many of your coworkers are you going to allow to be Facebook friends? Now, how much do you have to limit your posts? Think about these things, because that's part of your marketing. That's now part of your image. There's not two yous, it's the same you. So you've got to be really careful about that. Yes?
Can you expand on don't be everything to everybody?
Okay. One of the biggest fears we have when we're trying to apply for a job, trying to get a promotion, is we're afraid we're going to leave something out. You want to say that you've got a broad base of skills. You can fit any environment. Now, a lot of us have probably done this going, well, I'm a really hard worker. I'm dedicated. You can put me in Team A, Team B, Team C. You can put me into all these different environments and I will be successful. You may be right. You're not going to be believed. Instead, focus in on what makes you unique. And I'm going to put someone on the spot. Rosie, what makes you unique? And what is the exceptional value you provide to the teams you work with?
My ability to...
I'll give you a hint. It's 90% of what you've been doing for the last 6 months.
The ability to create process diagrams that help different...
Rosie is the queen of diagramming. She is a process flow goddess. She can understand. Rosie being everything to everybody, can she do a requirements document? Can she facilitate meetings? Can she reverse engineer? Sure she can. She's a senior resource. I expect those things. I will hire Rosie anytime when I have she is in the middle of an insanely complicated group that is convoluted, has roles and responsibility issues, and she is cutting through all of that and putting together and breaking it out so we can fix it. Because we don't even know what we need to fix yet. And nobody in the past was able to do that. So, Rosie is my coach for other BAs to help them on process and documentation. Now, is that selling her short? It's a part of her skill set, but that's one of the things that makes her unique.
But in building on that house, I've been asked to do more in the project management arena on the project, and I've tried to not, I've drawn a line and said,
Yep.
Thank you, I appreciate that you think I have that skill set, but that's not my strength. I want to work on this.
Yes.
And that's hard to do sometimes.
I actively hide my PM skills because I don't want to be a PM where I'm at all. And I hide those skills. Now, the leadership aspect, no. The communication, the planning, that's valuable. But I don't say it, I got it under a PM context. Right.
In the don't be everything to everybody, one of the strongest mentors I had early on growing up in the BA world was not a BA, but one of the things she said was, or basically taught me was, know and be confident in what you do know. Okay, stand on that like it's your rock. It's okay. be strong and say, I do know this, I actually do know this, because it also frees you to say, you know what, I don't know that, and I would love it if you do, and it empowers others to be experts in that, and then you can be helping to build a strong team by raising people up on what they do know, and saying, okay, you know, we don't know this third thing, let's find a third person, and then you can use that as, in an interview context, as a showcase of those skills. But in a more specific way, you're not trying to be everything to everybody, because nobody here is. If you had an employee come to you and said, I can do anything, would you believe them?
Demonstrate by leaving. So, getting back to the conclusions, because we want to wrap this up so we can do the fun networking part and everybody can start making new connections. Marketing is the exploitation of your uniqueness. So you've got to find out why you're unique and special. You are. There's something you have to value. Like me, it may take you 20 years to figure out really what it is. And I got mine down to 3 words, finally. I can't get any simpler. I'm really good at simplifying, automating, and educating. And that's what I do. In every engagement I have, that's what I end up doing. And then you've got to exploit that. Turn it into your advantage. Make it part of your brand. Make it part of your communications. Show off at work. Show off in volunteer work. Show off in study groups. Self-marketing needs to become natural and a part of every day. You shouldn't feel uncomfortable telling people what you do. It should be secondhand. And you should have a couple different pitches depending on what you think that person would react to. Try it out on your friends quietly, and you'll see how, if it's clunky or smooth. And then focus on your value and connect personally. You've got to have that connection. People have to see what the value is to them, and they've got to relate to you or it's going to fall apart. So, in closing, let me show you, in the download, there's some additional resources. Tips on storytelling and what makes a good story. 3 steps to finding a better position. Once you're ready, how do you take action? These are the 3 books you must read. Brand Called You, Linchpin, Made to Stick, and What Color is Your Parachute? It's put out every year, so buy it at a used bookstore. And stay connected. So, please, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to go to my website. You can download this or watch other presentations I've given. And again, no animals will harm, so we'll go with that. So, any closing questions before we get on to the end of the meeting? Yes?
Because currently I'm with the company now I'm working, but there's another opportunity that came in and I have an interview tomorrow.
Excellent.
So
you're not going to sleep tonight?
Study and research about the company, but no, I already did that last night.
Excellent.
So, any suggestions?
You want that person to remember 3 things about you. What are those 3 things, and do they match what they're looking for? They're going to make a decision between you and someone else. Nobody walks into the cereal aisle, closes their eyes, and just starts grabbing boxes. You look and you decide, and even between the same sugared cereals, you're going to pick one of them. You want them to pick you, so you've got to convince them what is it that's special about you that makes you outstanding for the position. And really, when it comes down to that, usually there's not even a decision. Usually it's pretty clear who you want. Very rarely am I interviewing a group of people and it comes down, although it just happened, came down to 2 people and I said, do we want this skill set or do we want that? We picked which was going to be a better fit, and that's who we made the offer to. So, hope that helps a little. Anything else?
Yes.
Yes.
Preparing the tools that you recommended, I think there is a big chance of misrepresenting yourself. I feel like it will be appropriate for if your last name is Carpinord or Pena or Ekman, but if it's just regular B or maybe even somebody who starts, having such tools might really bring you to some difficult situation.
So, okay, what happens if it looks like you're over-marketing, over-exposing? So, I would say, and thank you for putting me in the group with those other grades. I hope to earn that one day. I've been doing this for 20 years or so. I've been doing a lot of these things since the beginning. They have worked throughout the years. And when it started for me was before the dot-com boom, And what happened was, I was in a small consulting company, and the graphic designer pulled everyone into the meeting room, and they said, "You're not going to believe this. I have been interviewing and looking through piles and piles of resume for a graphic designer that's going to do web design and print design for us." Held up a resume and said, "This is the first resume that actually used print skills, layout, font control," and they're applying for a print graphic design job. And then all of a sudden it clicked for me. I was like, if that made such an influence to a graphic designer, what would happen if my resume looked that good and looked sharp and was that polished, and I sent it to someone else, even though I had a limited background, limited skill set, that sort of thing. And I've had 2 companies where people have forwarded that around because they couldn't believe that somebody put that much effort into it. So yes, it will be a narrower scale. Your value propositions may not be as strong, but they will be very strong for what you're doing, even when you're applying for a brand new job.
I was going to ask you, does it make you sound arrogant? Because me, if I'm applying for a consulting position, I don't want to come off as being, arrogant if I have those tools.
So that's where it's got to fit you. I don't want to come across as arrogant, but I want to come across as confident. I want to demonstrate my leadership, and I want to show that I am clearly going to be the person that you're going to put in charge and is going to get the job done. Because that's the position I want. I don't want a follower's position. I don't want a commodity position. I want a leadership position where I can affect change. Now, if you don't want that, tone it down. Show it. It may be that you just want to be the person that's fantastic at documentation. Then show you're fantastic at documentation. There's nobody that assembles documentation better. Show examples from class. Show examples with company names and proprietary information removed, and show how good of a job you can do. And that's perfectly appropriate. Tailor it to your audience and what you're seeking. Right.
One comment before you. If after sitting, this is going to, presenting yourself over the top too much. If after 5 years of experience and sitting down for yourself for maybe 30 to 60 minutes and talking to people who know you well, you don't have some things that you can point to say these are some accomplishments, that's a message to you. What are you doing? Are you doing the right things to nurture and foster your own career? Some of the volunteer stuff with the IIBA, you can raise your hand and get those opportunities. You may also be able to get them at your own job by saying, I would like to take on something more.
Yeah.
Or looking for it and just taking initiative and presenting it as a done thing to someone. So just, if you don't actually have any to say I've had value, you got to look for what's on.
Perfect example. Russ Pena co-founded a center of excellence at SunTrust Bank despite tremendous opposition. How? By volunteering. By pulling volunteers, by doing work nobody else wanted to do and it had value. And eventually it got formed, and it is now a benchmark that we both do presentations on. So volunteer for stuff people don't want to do, and it's amazing how much experience you can get. Look at all the positions Clinton pointed out. They need help. Event planner shows organization skills. It's the value you pull out of it. The fact that this meeting room, everything came together, is the organization skills that I want to hire people for. So pull it together, show the value. All right, I need to cut off because we're running a little late, so Clinton, thank you so much.